Hey, you're back! We're going to talk about introductory paragraphs now. Are these videos working for you? Because they sure are working for me. I hope that you're getting a lot out of them because I really think that they're pretty awesome. Plus, I get to talk to you without being interrupted, and you get to make me shut up without having to listen to me for a really long time. I think they're great, so I hope you're digging them. Okay, so introductory paragraph. Once again, like the others, I want to point out that this document is available to you. It is in the Miss E's examples folder that I have shared with you. It is called Introductory Paragraph, and you can search for it under that title if you aren't able to find the folder yourself. So that is where it is, and you can access it at any time. So what we're going to do today is try to figure out how to write an introductory paragraph. Now, the way that I'm going to show you is not like the be-all, end-all of intro paragraphs. It's just what I think works best. So I'm going to give you sort of a formula that you can work off of, especially if you're struggling with how to set this thing up. Okay? You start out with what we call the status quo. Okay? The status quo is a term that means the way things are right now. Okay, and I think that anytime that you're writing a research paper, you have to think of your audience as someone who knows a little bit about what you're writing about, but not very much. You're going to actually introduce them to the finer points of what you've learned in your research so that they go beyond what we consider common knowledge and they come to the same understanding that you do, and that they adopt the claim that you are putting forth in your thesis statement. So because they already know a little bit about what you're talking about, the status quo statement is supposed to call to mind in the reader's mind what the state of things are right now is before you suggest to them how it should change. So we've started off with the outline sort of in its stage one format in the introduction. We hadn't written the introduction paragraph yet. We had just put in the thesis statement. So I'm going to move my cursor to the beginning of that line, and I'm going to hit return so that I can type above my thesis statement. I have to remember that my thesis statement is going to be the very last sentence of my intro paragraph. That is where it belongs. Other teachers might not agree, maybe, perhaps, I don't know, but this is what I was taught by a really awesome teacher, a really awesome professor in my college, and I am going to stick with this forever. So, says I, the thesis statement goes at the end of the introductory paragraph. And the introductory paragraph begins with what we call the status quo. So I'm going to go ahead and put a status quo line in here. And I think that what I'm going to say, let's see, my paper is about the school calendar. So everybody knows what the school calendar is like now, right? That summer happens and everybody comes running out the doors and they're excited that they get to be off from school for 10 weeks. So boom, there's my status quo sentence. Every summer, the front doors of every school in America burst open and kids from age 6 to 18 come flooding out, ready to enjoy a long 10-week break from school. Now, I wrote that so that it was a little bit catchy. I don't know, you might not agree. But I kind of wanted to make it catchy, but I also wanted to make the reader immediately relate to what I am saying. So that is the function of that very first sentence. It's kind of a hook. It's meant to draw the reader in, and it's meant to make them think about what they already know about my topic, okay? And I'm going to add a little second hook sentence in there too, and I kind of made it a little bit catchy by using homonyms, you know, two words that sound the same but mean different things. I said this idyllic, meaning like picturesque, like perfect, like heaven-like situation is actually far from ideal. So now that I've got the status quo in the reader's mind, what they already know, the way things already are, and I've proposed the idea that this is not such a great thing, now I need to say why it's not such a great thing. I have to give up to 3 problem statements, okay? Problem 1, problem 2, and problem 3. Okay, before I get to my thesis statement, because the reader's not gonna listen to what my proposed change is if I haven't convinced him that there's something wrong with that. I mean, what's wrong with summer? Summer's freaking awesome. But when you look at what it could be in a different format, I might be able to convince you that a year-round school is better. So the first problem, I gotta kind of draw upon what I wrote in my outline. I'm gonna go pull up my outline. Actually, I'm gonna go here to where my outline is, and I'm going to check back to what I had said. Okay, I said it was better for students because they have this routine problem, that they forget a lot of stuff, that it's really stressful, that they have just one long break instead of lots of little short breaks. Okay, so that's one of my problems when it comes to students. So since that's the first thing I talk about in my paragraph, in my paper, I want that to be the first problem statement that I make in my introductory paragraph. And here is what I came up with. The endless summer truly does end, and fall brings the stress of early mornings and forgotten fundamental lessons to students everywhere. Well, that's a problem statement. I'm saying, look, this thing that we think is so wonderful this summer, it comes to a crashing halt, and it's stressful, and their routines are disrupted, and they've forgotten stuff, and I'm going to talk about all that in my paper, but I want the reader to think about it right off the bat so that they're ready to be receptive to my thesis statement. Problem 2. Well, let me go back to my outline. What was the second thing I was going to talk about? I was going to talk about how the year-round school is better for families. And because they weren't going to need childcare, they were going to be able to go to vacations on different times of the year instead of all at once with everybody else in the world. So I want to work that into my problem statement a little bit too. So what I came up with for problem statement 2 is parents, once again relieved of the burden of daytime childcare, recover from jam-packed vacations to crowded destinations. Now remember, this is just a brief statement that's supposed to get the reader thinking about what the problem with summer vacation could possibly be. And I want to get them ready for what I'm going to say later. So I'm not putting details from my sources into my introduction. I'm really just referencing what some of the problems may be that I want my reader to think about. And finally, my third problem. My third segment of my paper was that year-round schooling was better for teachers, that they didn't have to waste time reteaching, that teachers got to be more rejuvenated, that they had better times pacing the year's curriculum. Okay, so I got to come up with a sentence that's going to reference a little bit of that to some extent, and what I came up with for problem statement 3 is, and teachers struggle to help kids recall the details of what they learned in the previous year's class, but usually end up having to reteach what was lost. So at this point, I have my status quo that begins my intro paragraph, gets the reader thinking about what they already know. And then I have my 3 problem statements that I built based on what I already know will be in my paper. I went back and I checked my outline and I looked at my 3 major subclaims, better for students, better for families, and better for teachers. And I looked at the reasons that I was giving as to why this calendar is better for students, and I sort of flipped them around and created my problem statements. Whatever I'm going to propose fixing in my intro, in my body section 1, is what I'm going to bring up in my problem statement 1 as a problem. Okay? So hopefully that's clear. All right, I could go straight into my thesis statement from here, but I think I want to do one last little bit. I kind of want a call to action sentence that inspires the reader to keep reading my paper. Now, I don't have to include this sentence, and in my case, I'm going to make it really short, but I kind of like the way that it's done. So I came up with, it doesn't have to be this way. Okay, so again, I have my status quo section, I have my problems section, I have my call to action, dun, 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 and then I have my thesis statement. And bam, once I get through that thesis statement, man, that reader is going to want to read my paper. Let me tell you what. All right, and I can prove to you again, like kind of like I did in class, I think I did this in 4 maybe, but not in 1, that this paper writes itself when you do this outline the right way. So check this out. Right now I just have a series of sentences, and now I'm going to make it into a paragraph. There's my indentation, okay, and now I'm going to take this bit out, and then I'm going to take this bit out, and then and then and then my thesis statement, bam, and I have my intro paragraph, and it's going to be amazing and really, really fascinating for the reader. I won't read it back to you. I know you're going to want to read it again just because it's so inspiring, and I have my intro paragraph written. Got it? So once again, what we did was we created a status quo section. We created 3 problem statements that are totally mirroring what we've got in our paper. All right, each body section of our paper is mirrored in one of these problem sentences. I've got a call to action that's supposed to inspire my reader to change, and I've got a thesis statement that says exactly what that change should be. I've even got my word should in there so that it's clear what I'm advocating. Okay? This is my best formula for an introductory paragraph. Okay, one more time. The introductory paragraph is what it's called. It resides in the folder Miss E's examples. You can come back to this and take a look at it if you like. And okay, that's it. That's how you write an intro paragraph. Good luck, and I hope you do a great job. Talk to you in class. Bye.